Hey everyone, and welcome back to those of you familiar with the series, and welcome to those of you watching it for the first time. This is the latest video in our Facts You Didn't Know series, where we take a deep, funky dive into each one of Prince's albums. Today, we're going to look at an album born of anger and frustration. An album that sadly was somewhat ignored at the time of its release, downplayed by Prince himself, and yet does have songs that stand the test of time. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Now, don't get hit by mortars, don't loiter, it's chaos and disorder. So, first off, Chaos and Disorder is one of the few Prince albums that doesn't really seem to have its own era. Prince had already been working hard on Emancipation for quite a while by the time Chaos and Disorder came out, and in fact, promotional songs from Emancipation, such as Slave and New World, had already been heard and given out over 6 months before Chaos came out. So, practically speaking, the Gold Experience era seems to lead directly into the Emancipation era, with Chaos and Disorder being a bit of an anomaly in the middle. So why did this happen? Well, according to Prince, the album was essentially a contractual release to mark the end of his time with Warner Brothers, so that he could move on as an independent artist, which was what he really wanted to do at the time. In the credits, Prince notes that the songs were originally intended for private use only, and he also refers to it as a compilation. Now, here's why I don't necessarily agree with either of those things. Firstly, in late 1994, when Prince began to compile this project, at that time, he was considering using the songs Empty Room and 18 and Over for this album, and he recorded videos for both of those songs, as well as The Same December and Zanali, with a loose storyline connecting all 4 songs. And a little bit further down the line, he also recorded videos for I Like It There and Dinner with Dolores. Secondly, the album is remarkably consistent in tone. Michael B. and Sonny T from the NPG appear on 8 of the 11 songs. Morris Hayes and Tommy Barbarella appear on 6 songs, and the album also marks the return of Rosie Gaines, who features on 5 songs, her first work with the NPG since she left the band after Diamonds and Pearls 5 years earlier. So if you look at all those facts, the consistency, the band member input, multiple videos being shot with a storyline, the return of Rosie Gaines, and even the planned inclusion of Empty Room, at that time a legendary unreleased 80s track, what you can actually see is a very ambitious project that resembles 1991's smash hit Diamonds and Pearls album in scope and vision. It's closer to a Prince and the New Power Generation band project than it is to a solo album by the artist as it appears to be on the surface. And although the songs were recorded between 1993 and early 1996, that's hardly an unusual timeline for any Prince album. If you've watched other videos in this series, you'll know that that's actually quite common in terms of time frame. With all that in mind, it's very hard to agree with the claim that the songs weren't originally intended for release, or to categorize it as a compilation. It seems that what actually happened was that Prince's hugely creative and prolific brain worked so fast that amidst his war with Warner Brothers and the long delay in releasing the Gold Experience, the Emancipation concept was already moving ahead and exciting him before he'd even had the chance to finalize and execute his original concept for Chaos and Disorder. It's obviously very hard to say how things could have gone differently, but in my mind, I think that if Prince and Warner's had managed to smooth things over a little more, what might have happened would have been that in 1994, we might have seen an album containing songs from both Come and the Gold Experience, given there was so much crossover between the two. In 1995, we might have seen the fully executed Chaos and Disorder project with a lot of promotion, the release of all those videos that he filmed, and then in 1996, he would have still moved his attention to releasing Emancipation. Unfortunately, what happened was a huge delay to the Gold Experience, an escalation of his tensions with Warner's, and a burning desire to release Emancipation as his bold artistic statement of freedom, and Chaos and Disorder became a footnote in between the two, with some of those videos remaining unreleased for years. With that being said, at least 2 songs appeared in set lists years after the album release showing that Prince still thought very highly of them. I personally witnessed him performing the title track and the song I Like It There multiple times between 2007 and 2014. Speaking of the title track, one fun fact is that the origin of Chaos and Disorder, musically, comes from a jam ending that was originally the ending to the song Peach when it was performed live. Now, going back to the album and the way it was eventually released, despite the fact that Prince obviously thought highly of several songs both before and after the album was released, and shot those several videos we mentioned, the circumstances around the album release and his battle with Warner's meant that in most territories, Chaos and Disorder is a rare Prince album that didn't yield a single at all. But wait, what about Dinner with Dolores? That was a single, right? Well, kind of. The single release for Dinner with Dolores was actually only released in the UK, Germany, and Japan as a full single that people could buy. It was issued to radio in the US as a promo, but never officially appeared in stores. Now, that single release is notable for one other reason. On Prince's 38th birthday, 7th of June 1996, Warner Brothers launched a special website that was located at www.wbr.com/chaos and disorder. Dinner with Dolores streamed on that website, marking this as the first time that a Prince track had premiered online. Moving on, let's talk about the song Right the Wrong. One great fact about this song, it was recorded in the same set of sessions as Gold, 319, Billy Jack Bitch, and Chaos and Disorder, the title track. Prince actually later did a re-recording of the song, but the version that got released is that original recording. Additionally, the song Xanali was done in the same set of sessions as Space, Solo, and Race. But while these songs were done firmly in what can be considered the Gold Experience and Come sessions, the song I Rock Therefore I Am was done just a few months before the album release in March of 1996. That's why you can hear the rapper Scrap D on the song, and also on songs that would come out later on Emancipation, like Mr. Happy and Da Da Da. But Emancipation is of course a topic for another video. Let's talk about the song Had You. As the last song on what would be his last Warner Brothers release, or at least until Artificial Age nearly 2 decades later, it's commonly thought that this was meant to parallel the first song on 1978's For You, the title track. However, there's something that's a little less known, and that's the extremely similar lyrics and tone between Had You and the Nine Inch Nails song Eraser, brackets Polite. Have a listen to the two songs and you'll see what we mean. We already established in the Come video that Prince had been inspired by Nine Inch Nails, so perhaps this shouldn't be too surprising. We'll put a link to that Nine Inch Nails track in the description. Given the circumstances that led to this album, it's not known if any other songs were ever considered for this album, aside from Empty Room and 18 and Over, which of course 18 and Over ended up on Crystal Ball set in 1998, and Empty Room is yet to be released in its original form, although a live version was released on the online C-Note album in 2002. The final fact, unless you have the recent reissue of Chaos and Disorder on vinyl, it can be difficult to see exactly what the cover art is supposed to represent. But if you look closely, it's a boot print stomping a vinyl copy of Prince's 1999 album into pieces, with what appears to be a teardrop coming from Prince's eye on the vinyl. But if you look even closer, the teardrop is actually the Warner Brothers logo. Not exactly subtle, Prince. And that's it for another facts video. What do you think about Chaos and Disorder? What's your favorite song from this album? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you next time for more facts. Peace and be wild.
Hi, I'm Elisa Fiorillo, and you're watching The Violet Reality on YouTube. All things Prince!